Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into, well, a hymn. Yeah, a hymn. But not just any hymn. This one's dedicated to Shiva.
Oh,
From the Brahma Purana, specifically chapter 25.
all right, I'm intrigued.
And trust me, this is not your typical, "Oh mighty God, we bow to you" kind of thing.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, for starters, it's delivered by a character named Daksha.
Daksha.
Yeah, Daksha. And he's kind of a big deal in Hindu mythology.
What do you mean by big deal?
Think of him as a divine architect responsible for actually, building the universe.
Whoa, that's pretty big.
Yeah, exactly. He's what they call a progenitor of creation.
So not just some random devotee praising Shiva. This is coming from, like, the cosmic construction crew.
Exactly, and that's just part of what makes this hymn so fascinating. But here's the real kicker. This whole hymn comes after a massive conflict between Daksha and Shiva.
Wait, what? So he's praising the god he previously clashed with.
You got it. Makes you wonder what happened between them, right? And what does it say about Shiva that even his rivals end up singing his praises?
Okay, yeah, you definitely got my attention now.
So let's get into it. How does Daksha actually describe Shiva in this hymn?
Well, it's not just a simple, hey Shiva, you're awesome kind of thing.
Mhm.
The hymn is filled with these incredibly vivid epithets, names, and titles that reveal layers of Shiva's personality, mythology, and power.
Like what? Give me an example.
For example, he's called Tripura Nashak.
Puranashak.
Yeah, which translates to destroyer of the three cities.
Destroyer of the three cities. That's pretty intense.
It is, and it's not just a cool name. This title refers to a whole myth where Shiva battles and destroys these three demonic cities.
Oh, wow.
It symbolizes like a triumph over evil, ignorance, the things that hold us back.
So it's not just about destruction. It's about what that destruction represents, removing the obstacles to, reaching our full potential.
Exactly. There's so much depth packed into just one name. And then you have names like Shankukarna, which means conch-eared, and Ardashandikesh, meaning wearing half the moon.
Conch-eared, wearing half the moon. Those sound interesting.
They are. They might seem strange at first, but each detail reveals a piece of Shiva's complex nature.
So we're seeing a god who's not just powerful, but also super unique, multifaceted, more than just a one-dimensional deity.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that makes this hymn so compelling. It emphasizes Shiva's paradoxical nature. He's not a simple god. He embodies these seemingly contradictory qualities.
Okay, lay some paradoxes on me. I'm always up for a good mind bend.
Well, he's both the destroyer and the creator, a force of wild, untamed energy,
Oh, I'm following.
but also the embodiment of deep meditation and stillness. The hymn describes him as the calm of a yogi A&D, the dynamic energy of the cosmic dancer, the Tandava.
So he can destroy everything. A&D creates something new and better. That's a tough one to wrap my head around.
It is. But that's what's so fascinating about Shiva. This hymn invites us to consider how these opposing forces can actually coexist, how destruction can lead to creation, how stillness can be the source of incredible power.
Okay, I'm starting to see why someone would dedicate a whole hymn to this guy. But it's not all abstract paradoxes, right? You said something earlier about how the hymn connects Shiva to the world around us.
You're right. It doesn't just stay in the realm of philosophy. It grounds Shiva in the tangible, linking him to animals, plants, places, even sounds and colors.
Sounds and colors, too. All right, you've got to give me some specifics. What kind of things are we talking about here?
Well, let's start with the animals. He's often depicted with a bull, a snake, and a deer.
A bull, a snake, and a deer. That's not your usual lion or eagle kind of entourage.
No, it's not. And each animal carries a specific meaning. The bull, known as Nandi, symbolizes strength and virility.
Shiva's trusty steed.
Exactly. Always by its side. Then there's the snake.
Now, snakes usually represent danger, right?
They can, but with Shiva, it's more about transformation, renewal. Think about how a snake sheds its skin constantly being reborn.
Oh, I see. It's about those cycles of death and rebirth, not fearing change, but embracing it.
Precisely. And then we have the deer, a symbol of gentleness, grace, a reminder that even in his most intense aspects, Shiva also embodies peace and compassion.
Okay, yeah, I'm really starting to get a picture of just how complex this god is. But wait, you mentioned plants in places too, right?
I did. There's the Kinnara flower, for example.
Kinnara flower.
Yeah, it's known for its beauty and fragrance, connecting Shiva to the sensual beauty of the natural world.
So even though he's this ultimate reality, he still appreciates the beauty of a flower.
It shows that he's present in everything, from the grand to the seemingly insignificant. And then there are those locations, mountains, crossroads, ancient homes.
mountains I can kind of get, but crossroads and old houses.
Think about it. Mountains represent strength, stability, but also solitude, that connection to meditation.
Right, like Shiva meditating in the Himalayas.
Exactly. Then you have crossroads, those places where we have to make choices.
Ah, representing Shiva's role as a guide.
You got it. He doesn't tell us what to do, but he's present at those moments of decision-making. And those ancient homes symbolize ancestral wisdom, the knowledge of the past.
I'm seeing a pattern here. It's like this hymn is creating a map to understanding Shiva, showing how he's present in every aspect of life.
You're catching on quickly. This hymn isn't just listing off facts about Shiva. It's ultimately saying that he is Brahman.
Brahmin. Wait, hold on. That's a pretty big jump from conch ears and deer companions.
It is, but that's what makes this hymn so powerful. It's weaving these beautiful descriptions with these really profound philosophical ideas.
So, remind me what exactly is Brahmin?
It's like the ultimate reality in Hindu thought, the source of all existence, the force that connects everything. This hymn is saying Shiva is that force. He's not just a god, he's the very foundation of reality itself.
Wow. So when Daksha is praising Shiva, he's saying that he's like the essence of everything, the source of all creation.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why this hymn is so revered. It's not just showing us the complex nature of Shiva, it's inviting us to consider the very nature of reality.
Pretty heavy stuff for him, I gotta say, but I'm definitely hooked. Now, I'm even more curious about why Daksha is praising Shiva in the first place, especially after that conflict you mentioned.
Right, that's where things get really interesting.
Uh.
Why would Daksha sing such elaborate praises to a god he had a falling out with? That's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit and talk about this cosmic drama between Daksha and Shiva. We've established that Daksha is, a pretty powerful guy, but it sounds like his ego might have gotten a little out of control.
It's a classic story, really. Pride and disrespect leading to, well, some pretty serious consequences. Daksha's power went to his head. He became obsessed with status, rituals, all that.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you.
And that arrogance led him to make a huge mistake. He basically disrespected Shiva.
So what did he do? Did he, unfriend Shiva on cosmic media or something?
Think bigger, way bigger. Daksha decided to hold this massive sacrifice, a yajna, and he intentionally left Shiva off the guest list.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty big insult, especially considering, Shiva's wife Sati was Daksha's daughter.
Exactly. A major family drama, but on a, cosmic scale.
So Sati finds out about this, and I'm guessing she wasn't too thrilled.
She was heartbroken, furious even. She confronted her father, but Daksha was stubborn, refused to change his mind.
Oh, man.
And so, consumed by grief and rage, Sati threw herself into the sacrificial fire.
Whoa, that's a powerful statement. I can only imagine how Shiva reacted to that.
It was intense. Shiva was devastated by Sati's death and enraged by Daksha's actions. He tore out a lock of his hair and threw it to the ground, and from that lock sprang Virabhadra.
Virabhadra?
Yeah, a terrifying warrior.
Yeah.
Along with a whole army of these ferocious beings.
Oh, okay, now we're talking. This is like a divine action movie or something.
It's a pretty powerful image of Shiva's fury, for sure. A reminder that even those benevolent deities, well, they have their limits.
Yeah, don't mess with Shiva. So what happened next?
Virabhadra and his army stormed Daksha's sacrifice, wreaking havoc and ultimately beheading Daksha.
Oh, wow. He actually got beheaded.
Yep.
So now this hymn is starting to make a lot more sense. Daksha is praising the god who, took his head off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It shows just how powerful Shiva is, but also how merciful. Because eventually Shiva restored Daksha to life.
Really? He brought him back?
He did. But with a little twist, Daksha came back with a goat's head. A reminder of his transgression.
A goat's head? That's a pretty unique punishment. I guess it's better than, being dead.
It adds another layer to the story, right?
It definitely does. So it sounds like this hymn is Daksha's way of processing this whole intense experience, coming to terms with what happened,
I think that's a great way to look at it. He's acknowledging Shiva's power, but also seeking his understanding and protection.
Like, okay, Shiva, you're clearly in charge here. I get it now.
Yeah, exactly. It's a journey from arrogance to humility, from disrespect to reverence. And we see that shift reflected in every line of the hymn.
So even the most powerful figures can make mistakes, right? Get humbled by their experiences.
That's a universal theme, isn't it? Even if we're not dealing with cosmic deities and, sacrificial fires, we all struggle with our egos, make mistakes along the way.
So what can we learn from this ancient story? Why should we care about a god with a bull, a snake, and a deer who beheaded a guy and then gave him a goat's head.
It boils down to human experience, right? The struggle with our own egos, the consequences of our actions, the search for something greater than ourselves to rely on.
It's a reminder that we all face challenges, even if they're not as, well, cosmic as Daksha's.
And remember the paradoxes we talked about before. Shiva embodies both creation and destruction. Terror and benevolence. Isn't that kind of like life itself?
Yeah, we experience joy and sorrow, success and failure. They're all part of it.
This hymn, and the whole story behind it, invites us to look deeper, to question our assumptions, to be open to the mystery of it all.
So it's not just about praising a god, it's about understanding life itself, with all its contradictions and complexities.
Exactly. And that's what makes his hymn so relevant, even thousands of years later. But before we get too philosophical, I want to come back to the hymn's imagery, those vivid details that bring the whole thing to life.
Okay, yeah, let's dive back into those details. I'm ready for more. So we've uncovered a lot about Shiva through this hymn already: the destroyer of cities, the wearer of the half moon, the god who hangs out with bulls and snakes and deer. But I'm ready for even more. Let's go deeper into those symbolic details. What else can we find?
Well, we touched on the animals and what they represent, but remember, the hymn also connects Shiva to specific plants, like that Kinnara flower, with its beauty and intoxicating fragrance.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that before. I remember thinking that was a cool detail, connecting a powerful god like Shiva to something as, well, as simple as a flower.
It's a powerful reminder that Shiva's presence isn't just limited to the big stuff.
Yeah.
He's also found the beauty of nature in the little things that make life so rich and sensory.
It's like the hymn is saying, hey, I might be the ultimate reality, but I can still appreciate a beautiful flower.
Exactly. And those locations we discussed, they're not just random settings. They're carefully chosen to show us different aspects of Shiva's nature. Mountains, as we said, represent strength and stability. But they're also places of solitude, perfect for meditation.
Makes sense, since Shiva is often depicted meditating high up in the Himalayas, embodying that stillness and inner power.
Right. And then we have crossroads, those places of decision, of transition, symbolizing Shiva's role as a guide,
He's there to help us choose our path, but ultimately the decision is ours. That's a pretty empowering message.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even those ancient homes, often forgotten and crumbling, they hold a deep symbolism too, representing the past, the ancestral wisdom that Shiva embodies.
It's like he's connected to a time before our own, a source of ancient knowledge and power that we can tap into.
That's beautifully put. And the hymn doesn't just use visual imagery, It also evokes Shiva through sounds and colors, creating a truly immersive experience for the reader.
Right. We've talked about what we can see, but there's so much more to it than that.
Exactly. The hymn mentions the thunderclap, for example, that echoes Shiva's cosmic dance, that powerful dynamic energy that both creates and destroys. And then there's the sound of the conch shell, a sacred instrument often used in rituals, calling us to awaken to our true nature.
And what about the colors? I remember reading about specific colors associated with Shiva.
Oh, absolutely. White symbolizing purity, blue representing his throat after he swallowed poison to save the world, red for his fiery energy and power.
So it's not just about what we see, it's also what we hear, what we feel, a truly multisensory experience that helps us connect with who Shiva is.
And ultimately, it's an invitation to go beyond just intellectual understanding, and tap into a deeper, more intuitive connection with this amazing deity.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. We've gone from deciphering these ancient names to exploring the depths of symbolism and philosophy. I'm amazed by how much wisdom and insight is packed into a single hymn. But I have to ask, what does it all mean for us, today? We may not be building sacrificial fires or battling deities with goat heads. Is there something in this ancient hymn that still speaks to the modern world?
Absolutely. These ideas, paradox, cosmic power, the search for something greater than ourselves, these are themes that resonate across time and cultures.
We live in a world that's obsessed with labels and categories. But Shiva, he defies easy categorization. He shows us that life is messy, full of contradictions, and maybe that's okay.
Exactly. In fact, it's often in those contradictions that we find the most meaning. Shiva teaches us to embrace the full spectrum of existence, the light and dark, the joy and the sorrow, the creation and the destruction.
It's like he's saying, life's a wild ride, buckle up and experience it all.
I love that. This hymn and the myth behind it invites us to look deeper, to question our assumptions, to find a sense of awe and wonder in the face of the unknown.
Beautifully said. So, for our listeners who are feeling inspired to learn more about Shiva, where can they go from here? What are some resources they can explore?
There's a whole world of Hindu mythology and philosophy out there. Explore other hymns to Shiva. Dive into the epics like the Mahabharata and Ramayana. He
Mm.
plays a big role in those stories too. You'll
Mhm.
find a deeper understanding of his complexities and his importance in Hindu tradition.
And maybe, just maybe, you'll start to see those symbols, those paradoxes, reflected in your own life. The bull's strength in a storm cloud, the snake's renewal in a fallen leaf, the dance of creation and destruction in the changing seasons.
What a beautiful thought. This hymn to Shiva, it's not just an ancient text. It's a living invitation to experience the divine in every aspect of our lives.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration into the world's wisdom traditions.